Okay, hi everyone. We're excited to have you join us today for our discussion around interior trends in the social media age. My name is Megan. I'm here at Gelato, and I'm happy to be joined today by Poppy and Paul. Hi, Poppy. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background in interiors.
Yeah, of course. So I am an interior content creator. So a lot of my work is across Instagram and TikTok. And I've been doing that for about 5 years now. And really focusing on home decor, hosting, yeah, all things interiors.
Fantastic. And hi, Paul. How are you doing today?
Fine, and you?
Very well, thanks. I love to hear a little bit about your background as well.
All right. So my name is Paul. I am an illustrator, designer, and content creator from France. So I apologize for my accent. And I've been sharing my creative journey on social media, mostly Instagram, under the name of Wiser Pigment Studio. And I've also been selling some wall art with the help of Gelato for 1 year now. So really happy to be here today.
Fantastic. And we're happy to have you with us. So, we have a few exciting topics to cover. We're going to dive into the kind of rise of user created aesthetics and trends that we see online, how this is really disrupting trend forecasting or the traditional method of forecasting that we've seen in previous years. And then the kind of future, what we're seeing coming up in the next year, any exciting trends that you guys are both excited about. So let's dive into it. Okay, so first topic, starting off with the rise of user-created internet aesthetics. So, Poppy, design trends used to be dictated from the top down. Could you walk us through your thoughts about how social media has kind of completely flipped this traditional method of trend forecasting?
Yeah, for sure. I think everything now is far more accessible and far more instant. So I think it is very hard to like stay on top of trends and knowing kind of what's going to come up. Um, like even with whole room transformations, if you're scrolling, you're seeing someone transform a room in like 3 seconds. Like everything's very instant. You're starting to see a lot of things coming in that no one's really expecting because everything's moving so much faster. I think as well, like generally with social media, you can have a trend like a viral sound or something, and you can almost miss the boat with that within a week, if that happens. And although that isn't quite happening with home decor, I do think certain trends within like how to style a room or seasonal decor, things like that, are coming in very quickly and often being matched to things like a viral sound, and people are jumping on that really fast. So I think it is a lot harder to stay on top of and to know kind of like what's coming next. But I also think that makes it quite fun.
Super fun. So you'd say that platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, etc., are kind of shaping the trends now, maybe speeding up kind of the trends that we're seeing as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think speeding it up, and also just there's so much more out there. Like it's not, if you're designing your home or if you're redecorating a room, rather than going and buying a couple of magazines, within sort of one scroll, you can see literally thousands of ideas, thousands of different design trends, thousands of different styles. So I just think there's so much more out there that people have so much more choice. Um, which again makes it hard to predict because there's so much. It's almost like there's just a lot of choice now. But again, I think that in some ways is far more exciting because people can be a bit more individual with their style choices.
Definitely. And do you think there's any factors that kind of determine the life cycle of design trends that we're seeing in the age of social media?
Um, oh, I think certain things will always stay. Like I think there's certain design choices that I think are kind of like your core things, but I think things like accessories and like how you can kind of shape a room with sort of smaller objects, I think that can potentially be impacting it. I think that's also a lot easier to do quickly rather than painting a whole room.
Right. And kind of speaking of, so brands can really no longer rely on these kind of annual, long out kind of forecasting and predictions. from your perspective, what's the kind of most innovative way you've seen a brand or maybe a designer adapt to these like quickly changing trends in the social media cycle?
So I think those that have a really strong social media presence are much more on top of it and maybe aware of kind of the constant change. I think before you could have like an aesthetic shot of your product or a room, and that's lovely, and that still absolutely serves a purpose and everyone still enjoys that. But I think what we're seeing more now is I think audiences are liking a kind of more of a sense of a community with a brand. So kind of seeing the team behind the brand, seeing lots of like behind the scenes style videos or like setting up for a shoot rather than just the final product. So I think that sense of community and sort of engaging with their audience in a different way is sometimes how brands are kind of pushing themselves forward to kind of be sort of the most noticeable and kind of the ones that stick out in your brain. And I think the ones that then people become and feel more loyal to, maybe. And I also think as well with that, like with a strong aesthetic, everything is so instant now, especially with people like scrolling. If you haven't engaged your audience within the first 5 seconds, sometimes you've completely lost them. And I think if you've got a really strong image and a really strong aesthetic that people can identify very quickly, they're then likely to stay on and watch your videos. So I think like a strong aesthetic, a strong brand identity, and then just, yeah, kind of that ability to give a bit more insight and show your audience other sides of your business to help them feel more connected, I think is what's really helping.
Right. And on that kind of content piece, are there any kind of trends or styles of content that have really surprised you or stood out to you as really strong?
Yeah, I think again, like everybody loves a quick transformation. Like if you can see a space go from like something that's maybe either quite dated or needs a lot of work into something really quickly, really fast, I think that's what engages people. And then your audience are then going to look at that and almost think, how can I recreate that? Like, how can I do that? And I think those sometimes are really impressive, but also seeing how everyone likes things to be far more sort of attainable. So I think making your products and making your brand and making interiors something that people feel like they can do in their own home, I think is what's really working. I think if something looks like that's lovely, but I can't do that, it's not going to completely engage your audience. Whereas if it's something that is affordable, sustainable, and relatively easy to do, then I think it's something that's far more likely to get picked up by audience and go viral and kind of help with making your audience feel like they can do the same.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I know I see a lot of content online where it's exactly if it's too perfect or looks like it'll be too expensive to do.
Yeah.
I'm not an interiors expert myself, and so it's just easier to kind of keep scrolling past rather than actually make any changes to my apartment, for example.
Exactly. And it's so
Um,
pretty. Like if it looks lovely, that's great. But so many people will just go, I can't do that and scroll on. Whereas if you show someone how they can paint a piece of furniture and make it look really lovely or use color in a really easy, sort of interesting way, then I think they're far more likely to do that.
Right. And when it comes to your kind of own personal aesthetic and your style aesthetic, how do you balance maintaining your kind of consistent vision while also adapting to the changing trends that we see online? Has that been challenging for you, or how have you navigated that?
Um, it's not necessarily been challenging, but it has. I think sometimes I wonder if it's impacting my decisions. So I'm renovating at the moment. I've just moved into my new apartment. I've,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I sort of at the early stages, so still making a lot of the design decisions. And first of all, and this is what I always say to everyone who asks me, you live there, so you have to like it. There's no point in designing your room full of things that are trending if you don't like them, because you have
Right.
to stare at them every day. So I think that's my first thing is I have to really like it, and it has to feel like it's me. and obviously my partner as well, that it has to feel like it's our home and it's our space. So that's the first thing. And then I think starting with just your color palette and choosing that and thinking about things like your lighting, for example. Like the apartment we've moved into now has a lot less natural light than our previous one. So some of the colors I thought I was going to choose aren't quite working. So there's things like that that come in before I start thinking about kind of how it's going to look aesthetically and for my content. And then from there on, it's looking at, okay, at the moment, wallpaper is having a real moment. So is there one space I can use that in? Is there, if there's a certain color or if there's a certain material or texture that I feel like would look really nice and is also really popular at the moment, can I make that work with one piece of furniture or with patterns with cushions? So it doesn't necessarily have to be the huge things. It can be the accessories as well, that once you pull it all together kind of creates the finished look that you want.
Right. That makes sense. I'll get some tips from you after this, maybe. um, Thanks, Poppy. So moving in to kind of how we've seen the trend forecasting be impacted by this, I would love to hear from you, Paul, as an artist. How do you use social media to kind of figure out what the consumers are really wanting in terms of the products they're wanting to buy, the prints, etc.?
All right. So I think for me, the first point is about engaging with my audience. I mean, my audience is also my buyers sometimes. So the possibility with Instagram or other social media to communicate with people that love my work. I hope so. It's really interesting. You can have private messages, you have comments, and you can see direct feedbacks. So it's really interesting to engage with people, and you can know directly what they want. And also, obviously, with Instagram, Pinterest, as Poppy said, you have a lot of possibilities. You see people doing crazy things every day, so you can figure it out at some point what people likes. And yeah, it's really interesting for this, and also for me. It's a great way to find inspiration, social media in general. So this is the two main points for me.
And Poppy, are you doing the same, or are you using other methods to figure out what consumers are looking for?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way. I agree with Paul. I think seeing what other people are doing is a really great way to kind of figure out what's trending and what's happening out there and what's going on. So yeah, I agree.
But also just one point about this, even if trends are existing, for me the best is just to follow what you like, what you love to do. And as Poppy said, if you're living in home but you don't like it, but it's trendy, it will not work and you will not love it. And at some point you will hate what you're doing. So yeah, you just need to find the right balance for this.
That makes sense. And then kind of on the trends topic, DIY is also kind of really booming as a trend, because it's easy for people to get started. They can do things themselves, maybe a little bit more affordable. Do you think that the growing DIY culture and trend is impacting interior design and the trends that we're seeing, or is it impacted because of the trends? What are your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, DIY empowers people to personalize their space as they are seeing it and relate it to their own personality. And I think that now people want to be able to do things by themselves, even if it's painting, doing a drawing and after printing it, or doing a bunch of DIY stuff. But also people want to be able to customize stuff, choosing colors, modifying text. And I think it's a mix of a lot of things. When you're seeing someone doing DIY video on Instagram or other social media, sometimes you want to reproduce it, or if sometimes it's too difficult, then you just scroll down. But like for me, when I see someone doing something, I'm like, okay, I want to do this, even if it's not even in my field, you know. But of course, I think that DIY culture is really important for now, and people want to do things by themselves. So it's a great way to do it.
Poppy, have you seen this impacted at all? Or I know you do some DIY kind of on your channel as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think, as Paul said, people want to do it, and you do get that real sense of achievement when you do DIY. Like afterwards, you kind of stand back and you're like, oh, I'm really proud of myself for this. Hopefully, if it's gone well, then you feel really good about it. But also, I think it's obviously much more affordable. It can be much more sustainable as well. Like if you've got a piece of furniture that you're not loving, to give it a lick of paint, or to, like, I had a cabinet a couple of weeks ago that I wasn't loving, painted the outside, painted the inside, put some rattan in the doors, and instantly I was like, oh, this feels brand new and I really like it. And you've got that kind of sense of achievement. And then when people ask you where it's from, being able to say that you do it is it's quite nice. So I think people get a real sense of achievement, and it's also cost effective. It works really well in a space. There's so many tutorials out there as well that if there's something that you want to do yourself, you can probably find hundreds of videos that are really great explanations of how to do something. Even if it's like paneling a wall, there are thousands of videos out there. And then you can paint it yourself and, like Paul said, customize it to your own taste. So yeah, I think it's massively sort of kicked off.
Do either of you have a favorite DIY project you've ever done? One that stands out just out of curiosity?
Poppy, I let you.
Oh, I'm trying to think. There's a few. I think the ones that go well are the ones that you enjoy. I
Right.
think paneling's a really great one, and we paneled a whole room, and I think it just really worked in that space. It had lovely high ceilings. It gave it that kind of traditional feel, but then with like a more modern color. It just made it feel really like luxe and special, but also took a long time and was really satisfying to see when it was done, if that makes sense.
Right. The finished picture.
Yeah.
It's just that much more satisfying when you've done it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Lovely.
And in my case, it's when I'm making wall art, I'm spending a lot of time every day to draw and on my tablet. And when I'm finally seeing it on a print or a canvas, it's great, a great feeling. So this is my DIY process.
And it must feel special too when you see others with, not that it's DIY, but it's your art, up in someone
Yeah,
else's home. Like that's a
of
special
course.
feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. So moving into kind of trends, how we're seeing trends in the future, are there any kind of emerging design aesthetics or trends in interior that you guys seen gaining momentum now that you think are going to be big in 2025 that you're maybe excited about or maybe not so excited about?
One trend I'm excited about is retro futurism. So the point is to combine elements of vintage aesthetic from the 60s or the 70s, like bold fonts, pastel colors, with futuristic ideas. And it's something I love because I do a lot of vintage style on my own creations. And I like the way that it's about how people have imagined the future in the past. So yeah, excited for this. And we will see how it goes, but vintage is always perfect for me.
It's a classic,
Yeah, definitely.
vintage for a reason. And anything standing out for trends for you, Poppy?
Yeah, I think the same. I think we are seeing that vintage feel coming through with interiors as well. I mentioned earlier, I think wallpaper is really having a bit of a moment. I think a lot of people are using this. I think sort of like lots of texture, lots of pattern, lots of color, those kind of classic prints are kind of coming through, which I really like. I think it's really cool. I also think it depends on kind of your interior taste. Like lots of people are getting a lot braver with kind of color choices and going with really bold colors, and also like really sort of going more down the pastel route. So I think color and texture, I think is something that we're just gonna see more of, and people being braver with that choices. Maybe some like clashing as well, not everything being so matchy. And yeah, just a bit more. I think people are being braver with their like individuality and how that works, which is so exciting to see. I think it's really cool.
Yes, it's very nice. I know I'm trying to pick out more and more colorful bits and pieces. I know you only see the white wall behind me, but there's lots of color scattered around this room right now. Um, and then kind of diving into more of the future, what we're going to look ahead and see, and with a specific lens on kind of wall art and the art that people can easily put up on their walls to change their rooms more quickly. Paul, what's your advice, or how can designers who want to sell wall art, posters, canvas, etc., reinvent, or not necessarily reinvent, but keep innovative and make sure that they're adding products and designs that are going to keep their consumers kind of engaged with their work?
Yeah. So first, designer needs to focus on their storytelling and to be able to have a connection with people. Like if you're sharing the behind the scene process, for example, it's a great way to show to people how you do stuff, and people might want to replicate it, and they want to know more about you while you're doing some stuff. And I think in general, people love to see how something is created. And especially with social media, you can make your own edit. So you crop at the right time. So at the end, you have made 15 seconds and you have made a beautiful drawing. So this is amazing. And usually people are like, oh, okay, it's nice. So they might want to maybe follow you, and I think it's a great tool to stay connected with your audience, to your followers. And this is what I've done when I started posting on social media. I wanted to show how I do my process, and at some point I wanted to change. I tried many things, but also I think you need to be able to try different style, different kind of videos, and to adapt yourselves to customers' feedbacks and followers' feedbacks. At some point when I was beginning sharing other kind of videos on social media, more related to design and not that much of drawing, people were also really interested. So trying different kind of videos and kind of design elements is obviously always a good choice. And also, if you want to be still innovative, you can still be able to propose some customization options. We are talking about DIY lately. So if a client can adjust some colors, some text to have something like personalized for a gift, for example, it's obviously a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And speaking about kind of actually designing the art itself, the hot topic at the moment is obviously AI and how people are using AI to create artwork, not just artwork, images across the board.
Yeah.
How do you think that AI, now that it's gone to the stage where there's a lot of really strong tools out there, that it will either complement artists' work or maybe challenge artists' work, now that there's going to be such an easy way for people to create new
Yeah.
designs?
For now, I see AI as a tool, not as replacement. And of course, it can be really impressive to see like website like Midjourney generating images or designs, sometimes really good, but also sometimes it's really bad. And so you can imagine that kind of powerful tool like this one will help designers. Already on Adobe Photoshop, you have a lot of features animated with AI. So obviously it's already there, but I see it as an assistant. In my opinion, I already use AI, but mostly to do repetitive tasks or organizing ideas. However, I think that human creativity, we add emotion and depth and authenticity to what we are doing. So even if AI can do great things, some things cannot be replicated. So that's why I think for now we are good. We will see in the next 20 years, but I mean,
Yeah,
for now, I see it as a tool, yeah.
right now a tool for you to use and complement your work. So
Also, everyone right now knows about AI. That's why it's also really interesting for people to see behind the scene of doing something like DIY or doing drawings. When I started doing illustrations on my Instagram account, I wanted to share the behind the scene process of how I draw things, even if it's edited. But in my opinion, I was feeling like I need to show to people that I can do it by myself. And it's not just AI that do something, and just I'm just arriving on Instagram, sharing some designs, but not how I do it. So I think that everyone is aware of it, but people are they know that it's not AI when they see a DIY video or behind the process. So yeah, I think people they want to see some authenticity right now.
I think people appreciate it now that especially a lot of AI kind of design platforms are getting so much stronger. It can be hard to distinguish between what's real or created by a human
Yeah.
versus what's AI. So it brings that authenticity that people are looking for. So that's really nice. And for others who are starting to either illustrate themselves, create their own designs, or maybe want to sell artwork through AI designs that they've created, if that's their style of artwork, are there any kind of key tips you would give for people, or things that they should look for in a partner when they're wanting to take their creative vision to life and then start selling their products online like you have done?
Yeah. Towards trust and quality, you need to be sure that your partners will have consistent quality, especially for color accuracy and product quality, the wood, for example. And also that even if we can print a lot of things on our side directly, printing at a high level or for a lot of production, for printing on canvas, for example, I think that not that much people are aware of it. So it's important to be able to ask questions to professionals. It's their job. So when you know that you are well taking off, like you know that you can trust them, and yeah, it's best quality, of course, to trust your partner. And something that is also really important for me and a lot of people right now, it's about sustainability. Um, Having some eco-friendly options. Obviously, it's really important for now, and a lot of buyers will look at it, especially for wall art or clothing area in general. It's really important. And so print-on-demand services is also a great idea, because like if I want to send one of my print in the United States, if I am in France, I will be a bit afraid of it. So if you can print it directly on the same country, it will be better for everyone, cheaper and faster. So
Exactly. And then it's a little easier to get started because you don't have to have all the inventory of your prints or posters or canvas yourself.
yeah, it can be scary to have like 20,000 posters in your home. So yeah,
Very scary. And who
you
has the
don't want to
storage
have your
space
room
as
full
well?
of definitely.
Fantastic. And then as we kind of look ahead, is there any advice that you would give to people who are starting to sell either wall or art or other design products, to thrive in the very competitive landscape that we see in design?
Yes, so I think the main point is to engage with your audience. One thing that I've learned is that people connect with the story behind the art and the artist as much as the art itself. As I said previously, sharing your behind the scene process and sharing your creative journey, including challenges and like I've done some videos about creativity, creative blocks. Everyone have it, so everyone can relate to it, and people can just check on your profile and see that you are doing other videos on the same kind, and they will be really more interested about what you are doing. Even I, when I'm going to a profile, I can see like a really nice design, but I will see that he's only posting like designs. It's okay, it's good, it's really amazing what he's doing, but you don't know like how is it done, and you don't see him speak, you don't see his face. So sometimes you can just like there is a gap between the follower and the artist. So I think that if you want to share some videos about yourself, about your lifestyle, I think people will connect with that, and the story behind it's always appreciated, and we are human, so yeah, we need to share information each other, and yeah, for me it's the most important. And also, like, I think if you want to sell your design, you need to make something that is approachable. You don't want to have something that is too expensive, and you need to let the customers see how it will fit in their home. Like, for example, right now, maybe people will say, oh, okay, it's nice to have a lot of canvas on their walls. So if you show what they can have, maybe they will relate to it, and they will see that it's something that will maybe work for them too.
Poppy, any tips for aspiring content creators in the interior space?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that has grown. I think it's there's a lot more people doing it now than there were. I think, first of all, I agree with Paul. I think people like to see the person behind the content. And I think sharing your journey, sharing the moments that go well, but also the things that maybe don't, and just kind of being a person, being a human, and just being really consistent with what you're doing. Like I said earlier, making sure people know who you are within the first couple of seconds of your content, like having that kind of strong aesthetic feel, and also just being yourself. I think you can get really caught up on feeling like you need to do what everyone else is doing, but actually, I think the beauty in art or in interiors is kind of like your style and your taste, and kind of running with that. So I think that's kind of would be my biggest piece of advice, is just be yourself, and also try and have fun with it, like try and enjoy it.
Of course.
That's infectious through the screen for sure. When you can feel that energy, it's very special. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and all the tips and advice you give to interiors and also wall art creators who are looking to start selling their posters. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.